Hi there, it's Tori. In case you haven't been here before, welcome to my channel. If you have, welcome back. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I'm a 63-year-old baby boomer. Here to talk about things relating to being a senior, being a someone over 60, and some of the things that happen in everyday life when you have reached the age of 60 or over. So I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm going to talk about something, kind of something in my past, and I'm wondering if some of you may be able to relate to this too. If you read my intro, you know that I am from Alabama. You can probably tell that from the accent. And so I grew up in Alabama, and I grew up in a very poor family. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there who can relate to that, growing up very poor in the South or very poor in other parts of the country. And I'm going to talk about some of the things that I experienced. And I'd like for you to comment and tell me if you experience some of these things, same things too. And is this unique to the South? I'm pretty sure it's not. And maybe that you had some similar experiences growing up in other parts of the country. So the first one, growing up poor in the Deep South, is not having enough food. And I still think that fact of not having enough food growing up contributed to my being overweight as an adult, because food was very scarce when I was growing up. And so it was something that, if you had food, you ate it right then. You didn't throw any of it away, and you didn't save it till later. And so I think I got in that habit of eating everything on my plate and being worried about if there was going to be more food for the next meal. And so I got into this habit of eating everything at once and worrying if there was going to be more, and then taking advantage of it when there was more, when I got into a position where I was able to buy more food. So that's one of them. I do remember being little, and we didn't have enough food, or sometimes my parents wouldn't eat because they were trying to provide for myself, for me and my siblings. And then the next one is living in rundown rental houses. We never lived in a mobile home or trailer because my dad was deathly scared of storms and was afraid of a storm coming and demolishing the trailer. So we always lived in rental houses, but they were always very rundown rental houses. There was always wind, cold coming through the windows, and the floors were usually messed up, and there was no insulation, and they were just very run down. And so I remember living in those conditions growing up. The third one is never being taken to the doctor. My parents, again, they were poor. They couldn't afford to go to the doctor. We didn't have any medical insurance. And so when you got sick, Mom, took care of us the best she could. If we were lucky, we got over-the-counter medication, but there was no going to the doctor. We just could not afford that. And I know there were a couple of times growing up that I'm pretty sure I probably should have been taken to the doctor. One time I remember having the flu, and it was pretty bad, and so I probably should have been taken to the doctor then. Another time we had a porch swing on our porch, and I remember falling head first out of the swing and hitting my head on the cement porch. And I actually still have a scar up here from that. So I'm pretty sure that's another time I should have been taken to the doctor, but again, my parents just didn't have the money. The first time I remember being taken to the doctor, I was actually 24 years old, and it's when I was married, recently married, and suspected I was pregnant. And so that's the first time I ever went to the doctor. As you can imagine, it was very scary because I had never had that experience before. So, again, my parents just couldn't afford to take us. Let's see. The next one is vacations. We have one vacation the entire time growing up that I can remember. And we went to Panama City Beach, Florida. And I think the only reason that we got to go there is because someone that my dad knew had a little house down there. It wasn't directly on the beach. It was maybe 2 streets over from the beach. But whoever owned that let us stay there for I think about 3 or 4 days. I was only about 6 at the time, so I don't really remember it real well. But that's the only vacation I can remember us ever having when I was growing up. Then the next one, sort of related to that, was no cultural activities. So, we didn't go to museums, we didn't go to plays or theater or anything like that because, again, it costs money and my parents just could not afford that. So I feel like I grew up having a very much lacking in cultural education or cultural experiences because my parents couldn't afford it. The next one, no eating out. I've already talked about how we had food scarcity. We sometimes didn't have enough to eat, so there was certainly no going to eat out. After I got to be a teenager, occasionally my parents would go to a Jack's Hamburger and get some kind of sandwich, usually whatever was the cheapest that they had there. But they would take me and we might get a cheap hamburger or something, but that was very rare for that to happen. And that was what our eating out consisted of. We never went to a sit-down restaurant in the entire time I was growing up. Then the next one, wearing hand-me-down clothes. I have 4 older siblings. Technically 5, but one of them I've never met. The oldest one, who was my half-sister. She was my father's daughter from his first marriage, and I've never met her. So I grew up with 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. But again, I would have to wear hand-me-down clothes either from my sisters or from other relatives, cousins, or neighbors, or other people who had kids that were a little bit older than me, and they would give their used clothes to my mom. So it was very rare to get anything new. I don't really honestly remember getting any new clothes until I was a teenager. And I remember getting some jeans as a teenager, but that's about it. And then the last one is no expectation of higher education. My mother went through the 8th grade. My dad went through the 6th grade. So, education was not really valuable to them. They had never had anybody in their family. At that time, I don't think that they had even graduated from high school. And so they certainly knew nothing about college and had no expectation for me to go to college. So when I think about that, it's quite remarkable that I actually have 3 master's degrees. So that's something else. There was no expectation of that whatsoever. So those are just some of the things that I grew up with, being from a poor family in the South. So again, I would like for you to comment, tell me if some of these things are things that you can relate to. And I'd really appreciate it if you would like this video and if you would subscribe to my channel, because I'm just starting out and I'm really trying to get some subscribers. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.